Okay, so welcome. My name is Rabbi Lawrence. We're going to be doing Megillat Esther, the story of Esther, which is one of the five scrolls that appear in scriptures. And what this book does is actually gives us a description of the story of Purim. So that's pretty much what we're doing. Now, have you heard of the story of the holiday of Purim? You've heard of it, I'm sure. So what I want to show you for the next 5 weeks is that there is a tremendous depth to this story. So much so that the relevance of this story until today, and actually even in the future, as we're going to see later on in the course, is really holds within it the underpinnings of Judaism. So it's not just a cute story, it's actually a fascinating story in and of itself. But what we're going to learn together is that if you understand this story, you'll get a much better grasp of who the Jewish people are, because the events that happened over this period of time are crucial to who we are today. Okay, so that's the brief introduction. Where are we historically to understand this idea? And the answer is, this is at the destruction of the first temple. Okay, the Jewish people left Egypt in the Jewish year 2448. Okay, they spent 40 years in a desert. After that, they entered into the land of Israel under the leadership of someone called Joshua. Moses, who took them out of Egypt, wasn't allowed into Israel. Okay? If you have questions, please stop and ask. That's why we have a small group. After that, they entered into Israel under Joshua, and they were there for about 400 years or so. And then they built the first temple. It was built by King Solomon, who was the son of King David, and he was permitted to build the temple in Jerusalem. King David, his father, built the foundations and selected the location. The location was known actually because the location of the temple was part of our history. And before that, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob had been there, but eventually it was selected, and the first temple was built. Over 400 years later, it was destroyed by the Babylonians, by a leader called Nebuchadnezzar. Okay? He destroys the temple and exiles the Jewish people. That is the first of the 4 exiles, in Hebrew, the galuts, that we the Jewish people have been through. With me so far? Great. After a little while, the Jewish people ended up, for the most part, thank you, for the most part, in a country called Persia. Now, Persia, in those days, was really the epicenter of where life was. We started off more in Babylon, which is like Iraq, but eventually Persia became the seat of power in the Middle East. So Nebuchadnezzar, who was basically an evil dictator, was taken over by someone called Belshazzar, who ruled for a little bit of time. Some say it was actually his son. And then came someone called Achashverosh. You've heard the name before? That's not his name, it's actually a title that was given to him. And the Megillah opens in the 3rd year of his reign. Okay, that's the opening episode in the Megillah. So that's where we are. The Jewish people are in exile. That means the temple's been destroyed. You can imagine our spirits are low. One other very important piece of information. And it goes like this. The prophet Jeremiah told the Jewish people that they would be in exile for 70 years, 70. And then we're going to return and build the second temple. That happened. The only information that was missing was when that 70 years was going to end. Now, we knew that it was going to end. What we didn't know was when it was going to end. How do you not know when it's going to end? 70 years ends and it ends. And the answer is because of when it began. There was a difference of opinion when exactly does the clock begin ticking that the 70 years of that particular exile ends. So many different people had different opinions, Jews and non-Jews. Okay? Some said, well, it begins when the first Jews left. Some say, no, when the cities were destroyed, right? When the Torah scholars were kicked out. The different opinions, and the Talmud tells us, people calculated it. Achashverosh had his own calculation. It was the 3rd year of his reign. And to celebrate the 3rd year of his reign, he throws a party. Let's have a look inside and let's see what happens. So we're doing this more in the English, so you can follow in the English or you can use the sheets. And it came to pass in the days of Achashverosh, the Achashverosh who reigned from Hodu to Cush over 127 provinces. Now Hodu is probably India, Cush is probably Ethiopia. So he ruled 127 provinces. How could that be? Because you can fit that many pieces of land. I guess you can between those two places. Some actually, if you look at the world as a globe, here's Kush, and he didn't rule the space in between. Actually, the space is in between that way. So he had tremendous power that he himself had claimed for himself through military war and defeat. Okay? He was a military dictator, just like we have nowadays. He didn't come from royal blood, right? He didn't inherit it. He fought it, and then he took it from the previous dictator. That's how dictators work. Okay. 127 provinces, and it was in those days when King Ahasuerus sat on his royal throne, which was in Shushan, the capital. Shushan is the capital of Persia in those days. Nowadays, Shushan is probably Hamadan. That's most opinions. That's actually where the burial place of Mordechai and Esther still exist. Many people think the capital of Persia is Great Neck. They're incorrect. It's actually Shushan. In the third year of his reign, he made a feast for all his officials and his servants, the army of Persia and Media, the nobles and the officials of the provinces being present. Why is he throwing this party? Well, in the third year of his reign, that was a calculation at the end of the 70 years. So he's celebrating that the Jewish people are not going to go back. So he kind of like throws it into their face. And what does he do? He invites them. And he wants them to be part of this party, which is pretty sickening. They've been kicked out. They're stuck in Persia under this foreign ruler. And he says, that's it. You thought you were going to go back. Forget about it. 70 years is finished. It hadn't. He had miscalculated. But in his mind, he had. It was the third year of his reign. He felt confident that he had a good control of power. What did he do at this party? He displayed the riches of his glorious kingdom, the splendor of his excellent majesty for many days. The party lasted for 180 days, a 6-month party. You thought, Ben, you had a good time at college. You had nothing on this guy, Ahasuerus. He knew how to make a party. And when that party was fulfilled, he made another party that lasted a week long for all the people who were present in Shushan, the capital, great and small alike, like in the court of the garden of the king's palace. So let's get this clear. He makes a 6-month party to celebrate. Okay. And then he makes a week party for who? For the people who are in Shushan. So who comes to the 6-month party? Everyone from all over his provinces. 127 so people have to travel far and wide in order to come to the party. Okay? There's actually a dispute. The articles he used to decorate his palace. Okay, now in English they don't make too much sense, but in Hebrew there's an amazing thing. This is verse 6 of chapter 1. There were hangings of white, fine cotton and blue, held with cords of fine linen and purple, silver rods, marble pillars, couches of gold and silver on the pavement, green and white shell and onyx marble. What's he doing? Why is he putting all this fancy stuff out? What do you think?
Shows riches.
Shows riches. Why would he do that? That's what dictators do. Don't try to overtake me. Do you know how rich I am? I have a whole army and I have money to support myself. Right? This is a sign of power, a sign of strength. You can't beat me. I am the great dictator Ahasuerus. Again, not his name, his title. Actually, Ahasuerus is actually 2 Hebrew words. Ach, which means a brother, and Rosh, which means a head. He was the brother of another head. Who's that? Nebuchadnezzar, the guy who destroyed the first temple. He was just another brother of his, as it were, brothers in arms. Some say, no, the word ach is ugh. Rosh means in the head. He gave the Jewish people a headache. He kept changing his decrees, as we're going to see, and he gave us a big, big headache. Where do these things come from? All these beautiful items. So in the English you can't see, but in the Hebrew, you'll find there's a number of items that are mentioned which are found in the Torah, the Bible itself, in the 5 books of Moses. Why? Because in the 5 books of Moses, they describe the Mishkan. That is the tabernacle that eventually became the Beit HaMikdash, the temple. He decorated his palace with all the riches that were ransacked and stolen from the holy Jewish temple in Jerusalem. Why would he do that?
To shove it in the Jews.
Shove it in their face. And you're not going back. You're here. This will be your new temple. You're not Israeli. Right? You're Jewish citizens, Hebrew citizens here in my kingdom, says Achashverosh. And there were drinks were served in gold goblets, and no two goblets were alike. Royal wine in abundance. In the Hebrew, it even hints to us that the wine and the food were kosher. He made them kosher. Why would he make them kosher? He wanted the Jews to enjoy it. Come in, have a good time. I'm not against you. He's consolidating his power. Eventually, the same people he's consolidating, he's going to try to squish and make into hummus. That's coming. But we're not there yet. It will be there, but not there as of yet. Okay? And look at verse 8. And the drinking was according to the law without coercion. For so the king had ordered. Why? Who would coerce? So they used to actually do drinking games. People used to get drunk and delirious. They would force people to drink to build the merriment. Not now. No. Right now, everybody can drink as much as they want, as little as they want. Kosher food, kosher wine, Jews and non-Jews alike. Everyone's comfortable. Everything's going fantastic. Now, Achashverosh had a wife. His wife's name was Vashti. Vashti did come from royal blood. She was the granddaughter of Nebuchadnezzar, and she was a really, really nasty one, as I shall prove to you in a couple of moments. So she came from royal blood. He didn't. He married her, well, probably kidnapped her when he destroyed the kingdom, and married her. Why did they do that? Why would he marry her? So if you can't be a royal, you marry into royalty. Look at the Middle Ages, right? Queens and kings in England and France and all over. They used to marry their kids off to each other, consolidate power to make peace. It was actually a military and political move that people would do. You want to placate another nation, you marry off the royalty to each other, and everyone's good. That's kind of how it works. He did the same thing. He wasn't from royal blood, so he marries her to validate his own power. Having said that, she looked down upon him. My grandfather, my father, they were royalty. Who are you? You're just a military leader. So while he's throwing this big party, 180 days, she throws her own party. And that's verse 9. Gam Vashti Malka Asta Mishta Nashim Beisa Malchus Shalom Melech Achashverosh. Oh, I forgot something. Very important. I'm so sorry. In the wording in the Hebrew, there's another word that actually tells us how Achashverosh dressed. Now, why is that important? Because he wore a certain outfit. What outfit did he wear? The outfit of the high priest, the Kohen Gadol. We know from the Torah that a regular Kohen in the temple wore 4 items of clothing, 4 specific garments. The Kohen Gadol, the high priest, of which there was only one, wore 8. Turban, a certain plate over with God's name on, the me'il, the coat, and all different items of clothing that he wore. He wore that clothing. Why would he do that? Why would he dress up at his party?
To show that he's like the Holy One.
I am the Holy One. That's right. You don't need your high priest anymore. That's done. The whole Israel Jewish thing. I am your high priest now.
Who did you say that he, you said that it's the brother of, right?
Yeah, Achashverosh is Ach, which is brother, Rosh of another brother. Not literally a brother.
So you said not literally.
Not literally. As in, it's an idea of like they were brothers, if you will, in arms, you know? That's really what it was about. So he's dressed up as the Kohen Gadol, the high priest. Now there's going to be a number of themes we're going to look at over the next few weeks we're together. The first theme is dressing up. We're going to see a number of times that clothing, or in a few moments, lack thereof, are mentioned in the Megillah. And this, by the way, is one of the themes that we do. What do we do on Purim? We dress up. The dressing up is not because, hey, it's cute, right? It's not like a costume party. No. There's a lot of depth to the reason we dress up on Purim. Okay? Now we've seen clothing mentioned once. Achashverosh is wearing clothing. Let's, over the next 5 weeks, spot a number of others that come. Gam Vashti Malka, also Vashti. Now it says also, Gam means also in Hebrew. Why also? Because she also got dressed up, says the Midrash, and she also dressed up as the Kohen Gadol. What does she do? Asta Mishte Nashim. She makes a party just for the women. Beis al Malchus, Asher Melech Ashverosh, for the royal house of King Ashverosh.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So does Ahasuerus, does he only throw a party for the men? Like, why? I'm confused.
He's throwing a big, excellent. He's throwing a big party for everyone. She throws her own private party. Why? Is the question. Why is she throwing her own party, which is just women only?
Specifically for women.
Yes,
It doesn't specify the women. It doesn't
Mishten Nashim, Queen Vashti was made a feast for the women in the royal house.
To show
Women
that
in
she's
the
the
royal
holy
house.
one.
So she is now consolidating her power. Like, you go to him, but don't forget about me. I'm Vashti. I'm real royalty. I have the power as a woman to even make my own party. What does he do? Well, actually, before we do that, he's going to react in a moment to something. The Megillah tells us very interesting. It tells us when this party occurs, or this, what's about to happen occurs. Bayom Hashvi'i, on the seventh day. What's the seventh day? Your name was Pauline, is that right? What's the seventh day? Shabbat. Shabbat. There's a hint over here that what's about to transpire happened on Shabbat. Why would the Megillah doesn't tell me any other days that things happen in? All of a sudden, Megillah wants to say, by the way, if you want to know something important, what's about to be discussed happened on Shabbat. What's about to happen is that she is about to lose her life at the hands of her husband Achashverosh, okay, for disobeying him. For disobeying him. It happens on Shabbat. Why? Because the Talmud tells us she had a very sick habit. She used to take Jewish women, strip them, beat them, and make them work on Shabbat to humiliate them. That's what she likes to do. You don't like her anymore, right? That's the way she acted. There's another theme that comes on the Megillah. The first we looked at was clothing. The second is Mida Keneged Mida, which means measure for measure. There's a strong theme that influences the entire Megillah, Purim story, that things are happening measure for measure. People do things a certain way and it comes back to them. The spiritual world, God in the spiritual world, reacts in the same way they act out. This is one of them. She tortured people on the seventh day and embarrassed them. And she was punished on the seventh day as well, on Shabbat. Mida can measure for measure. Measure for measure. You following? Great. So we're on verse 10. It's on the seventh day. Ketov Leva Melech B'yayin. The king is drunk. He's drunk. He's wasted. Amar Lumhuman Bistafan. He calls upon these 7 chamberlains and said, "Go and bring me my wife, my queen." Liud Aleph Lavi et Vashti Hamalka Lefnei Hamelech. Bring me. Now in the English this is Queen Vashti, but it's not what it says in the Hebrew. In the Hebrew it says, "Bring me Vashti the queen." Bring me Vashti the queen, Lefnei Hamelech Beketal Malchut, and she should come wearing her royal crown. She should come wearing a royal crown. The Talmud says, when he means for her to come in her royal crown, it means that she should come only in her royal crown, i.e., she should come naked. He wants her to come from her party and to dance in front of him and his cohorts completely in the nude. Why? La Rota. I meant to show all the people there and the officials how beautiful she was. Okay? So that's what he wants her to do. Now, she refuses. And there's a few reasons why she refused. Number one, degrading. But she wasn't so perturbed about that. She probably would have done it in order just to flaunt herself. The reason she didn't do it, says the Talmud, is that she actually contracted a skin disease right before called Sarat. Sarat, which is a certain skin disease, which actually, according to the Talmud, was a spiritual malady for people who were arrogant and spoke bad of other people. So whatever reason she got it for, she got the skin disease and wasn't willing to embarrass herself by dancing naked in front of all these men. and women possibly, with a skin disease. Now watch very carefully, and you have to go to the Hebrew. I don't know if you read Hebrew, but look at the Hebrew in order to appreciate this. He says in verse 11, Lahaviat Vashti Hamalka, bring me Vashti, the queen. Verse 12, it says, V'tema'en, she refused. Who? Hamalka Vashti. That's verse 12. Hamalka Vashti. There's a change over. You see the change? He says, bring me Vashti Hamalka, and she's, you better tell me, Hamalka Vashti ain't coming. What's the difference between Vashti Hamalka and Hamalka Vashti? Vashti the queen or Queen Vashti?
It reflects how she sees her own identity versus how he sees it.
Absolutely. What's the difference?
She sees herself as royalty, this powerful woman, and he sees her as a woman who happens to be royalty.
Exactly. He calls her Vashti, who happens to be queen, because I chose her. She responds and says, you tell him that Queen Vashti ain't coming. So the words are inverted, so there's a political battle happening between these two people. It's not going to end up well for her. She refuses, and she says no. He finds out, he's drunk. He gets absolutely furious. Melech says, Ma'od, and there's a fire inside him, and now he's got to do something about it. Verse 13. He calls his wise people. What's he going to do? Who are these wise people? Yodei ha'itim, the knowers of time, is the literal translation. The knowers of time. Who are these knowers of time? So the rabbis tell us that actually this is a reference to the rabbis of the day. Why they call the knowers of time Yodei ha'itim? It's not a derogatory term. It's actually a very, very good term, because the rabbis of the day knew exactly how to calculate the calendar month. We Jews choose the months according to the moon. It's actually the first mitzvah that was given to the Jewish people in Egypt to calculate a calendar. So they were experts of knowing when the moon was waxing, waning, new moon, and they were very good at the stars and knowing this. They're actually famous for that. Now, he was going to go to them and say, what should I do with this woman Vashti? What do you think they said? Imagine you're a rabbi of the day, living there. What do you think you would respond if he asked advice as to what he should do? You can say kill her. You could say leave her alive. You could keep your mouth shut. Which of those three did they kept or chose?
Mouth shut.
Mouth shut. They realized he was drunk. They realized eventually he's going to sober up. And they were like, hey, where's my beautiful wife? I love her so much. Oh, who said kill the Jews? Let's kill the Jews. So they basically kept their mouth shut. So what does he do now? He's like, well, let me ask some other people. Let me ask my advisors who weren't Jewish. The Kareva Lav, Kashna Shesa, and he names them all Kashna Shesa. Masa, Tarshish, Meres, Mersana, Memuchan, the 7 officers of Persia and Media. And he's going to ask them what to do. One of them answers and gives advice. The one who answers, you can see in verse 16. And his name is Memuchan. Memuchan. Can you see that? Memuchan declared before the king and the officers. He's going to give his advice. Who is this guy Memuchan? So you don't know by looking just at the Megillah, but the Talmud tells us actually Memuchan was not his name. It's actually a title that is given to him by the Megillah. And the word Muchan means ready. What's ready? He's prepared. Who is this guy? It's Haman. Why is he called Muchan over here? Because he's ready for his downfall. God has already put him in place to fall down in his plans to kill the Jews. He hasn't even thought up the plan yet. He's got no reason at this point to want to kill them. He's going to have a reason very soon. But he's got no direct reason, and yet he's going to have one. And his downfall is already set up. So the name itself has hinted that this is the guy who's going to have a downfall. Now, if you look at the list of the 7 chamberlains he went to for advice, Memuchan, aka Haman, is the last guy mentioned. Well spotted. Yet he's the one who comes with advice. So he's the littlest of them, yet he's the one who comes forward and starts to speak. It shows that he's got some arrogance problem, and this is also going to be part of his downfall. Already we see that the seeds of his downfall are already being sown. He's full of himself, the other 6 are irrelevant, I'll tell you what to do. And what does he advise him to do? And he says, you know what, this is not so good. Because what's going to happen is, all women are going to hear about this, and all men are going to hear about this, and all women are going to rebel against their husbands. So basically, you're going to make a decree, okay, and tell everyone the following. So look at side. This is the decree says. Look at verse 19. If it please the king, let there go forth a royal edict from him, let it be written into the laws of Persia and Media, and not be revoked, that Vashti never again appear before King Ahasuerus, i.e., she's dead. And let the king confer her royal estate upon another who is better than she. Choose another wife. Verse 20. Then, when the king's decree which he shall proclaim shall be resounded throughout the kingdom, great though it be, all the wives will show respect to their husbands, great and small alike. His advice is, knock her off. Kings are very good at doing that. Dictators, they love killing their wives. Like King Henry VIII, right? He chopped all their heads off. Many of them. He did the same. They hung her, chopped her head off, put it on a platter, and brought it to him. And he was still drunk. He then says, send a letter. Look at verse 22. And he sent letters into all the king's provinces, to each province in its script, and to each people its own language, to the effect that every man should rule his own house and speak the language of his own people. This, the Talmud tells us, was the stupidest thing he could have ever done. What do most people who received a letter from the king saying that women should listen to their husbands in the home? What do they think? They think this guy's nuts. The Talmudic sage Rabbah says, had it not been for this decree that he made, which was completely crazy, right, telling people that women should listen to their husbands, when men are in control, right? Had it not been for this decree, the Jews would have been dead. Why? Because later on in the story, he's going to make another decree that went out saying that everyone should kill the Jews in their towns. Now, eventually that decree was rescinded, but many still try to do it. They basically saw that decree and like, oh, here he is again, the nutjob with the crazy decrees. And they actually ignored that. Many people ignored that decree based upon this first decree. So this decree was crazy, but it was all perfectly set up because God needed things to be set in motion for the eventual redemption of the Jewish people and their return to the land of Israel.
I don't get why this decree would be crazy in that time, though.
So there's two possibilities. One possibility is men were in control of their homes anyway. That's what the commentators say. So they didn't need to hear this. And the other is, are you crazy? I mean, people didn't need to hear this, right? What's happening in someone's house? Happening in someone's house. He's coming along saying you have to listen, and he's in control. So that's possibly the other reason. Okay. All right. A little side point over here. There's something unusual about this book in Scriptures that doesn't exist in any other book in Scripture, right through the entire Bible. Okay? And that is, God's name is missing. It's the only book in the entire Bible and all the prophets and everywhere else. God's name is mentioned here, there, everywhere. Suddenly get to this story and God's name is not mentioned even once. Trust me, that's really, really weird. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is?
Because the whole theme is being hidden.
Oh, beautiful. Hidden is one of the main themes. So basically there's two ways you can look back at history. You can look at events like the Passover story, right? You read the Haggadah. What's that all about? People, there's miracles, there's frogs, and there's blood, and there's 10 plagues, and there's sea splitting, and you get Mount Sinai, and all this amazing stuff is happening. And then you get a diametric opposite. When you look at the story, and we're going to go through most of it together, it's just a story. And you could be like, oh, it just happens to be that this person ends up dying, and this person ends up being selected, and we'll see a number of things just could have happened. The key, however, is to see that God is hidden under the surface. So there's different ways that God relates, different attributes of God. Sometimes there's miraculous, open miracles, and sometimes there's hidden miracles. Purim is the archetypal version of hidden miracles. That's what it's really all about. Okay? Okay. I think I missed anything out. Those are the main points. Chapter 2. Good so far? Any questions? Anything we said so far? Okay, great. Chapter 2 as well. So where are we up to so far? So let's just recap. 70 years are up. According to Achashverosh, he's wrong, but according to him, throws a big party. Party is massive. During the party, at one stage on the 7th day Shabbat, Vashti, his wife, comes along. She gets killed. Now he's a single man without a wife. I'm sure he wasn't single anyways, we're going to see. He had a fully functioning harem. However, as we're going to see, because the Megillah itself is going to talk about it. However, he is wifeless, which leaves open a vacuum, which is about to be filled by Esther. Esther is the queen of the story. She's about to fill that position. Let's talk a bit about her, because according to our tradition, actually according to the Megillah, that's not even her real name. Does anyone know her real name? Very good. Hadassah. Very good. Let's have a look inside. After these things, what things? The stuff that just happened. K'so Hamas HaMelech, the wrath of the king subsided. By the way, there's two ways to say after in the Bible. Achar and Acharei. Acharei means a long time after. Achar means immediately after. So what's happening right now happened right after. Actually, the whole Megillah takes, I don't know, anywhere from 70 to 20 years. We read it in like 30 minutes on Purim, you know? As we're going to see, that's one of the 4 mitzvot we have on Purim. But what we do is read through it quickly. It took a long time to happen. Okay? A long time. The king remembers Vashti. Now, I'm going to bring along, maybe next week, an actual Megillah. Okay, Megillah literally means a scroll. Okay, a scroll. And this story is written on a scroll and read from a scroll, a parchment. So far is written out by hand. Now you'll see in the Megillah that it's actually made up of columns. Column, 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 column. Big piece of paper and then stitched together. There are many Megillahs that each Megillah column begins the word Melech. Melech means king. Melech means king. Why is that? The Talmud says that although God's name is not mentioned in the Megillah, when you see the word Melech, God's name is not mentioned, but you see the word Melech, it's actually referring to the ultimate king, which is God. So whenever you see the word Melech or HaMelech, you can actually read it two ways. One way to refer to Achashverosh, but another way to refer to God. Let's try that right now. After these things, when the king's anger subsided, he remembered. He remembered. So when it comes to Achashverosh, we know what he's talking about, right? He gets angry, kills Vashti, and he remembers what happened, and whatever he does, he's about to do. The other is, God, after exiling the Jewish people, because he wasn't happy with us, calms down, and then he remembers that he's got a people, as it were. God doesn't forget, but it's metaphorical. God remembers, turns his attention towards them, and is now going to save them. You following? So that's where we are right now.
5 minutes.
Thank you so much. I get more than 5 minutes. Zachar is Vashti ve'esasha asta. He remembers everything that he did and what was decreed against her, i.e. that she's dead. Verse 2, chapter 2, verse 2. Then the king's pages said, "Let there be sought for the king beautiful young maidens, and let the king appoint commissioners in all the provinces of the kingdom, that they may gather together every beautiful young maiden to Shushan, the capital, to the harem under the charge of Hege, the king's chamberlain, custodian of the women, and let their cosmetics be given to them." What is going on? Gathering women? What does that sound like? Ben, what does that sound like? Don't look too excited. What does that sound like?
It sounds like he's picking someone. It sounds like he's trying to find something new.
He's definitely trying to find something new. Think he's doing it in a respectful way?
Sounds like a beauty pageant.
Now, when I was a kid, we learned it was a beauty pageant. That's what they told us, you know? And he had a beauty pageant. That's not what happened.
It's more than it's
I
more.
think that's what they told me.
That's what they told us, right? They told us that he chose them. When I was a kid, remember, they lined up all the girls. This one's toe is too big. This one's... That's how they speak modestly in yeshiva. No, what he did was, he got his thugs to go and kidnap women off the street. Thousands of them. Actually, many women didn't have to be persuaded. They were willing to give themselves up for the opportunity of winning the lottery and being the king's wife. It was worth a gamble for them. Actually, no. He takes him to his harem, and what's this whole cosmetics thing? So basically what happened was, the Megillah is about to tell us, they lived in this harem for a year. Why a year? Because they wanted to apply cosmetics to them over the year to see if they were beautiful during all 4 seasons. I mean, this woman's about to become the queen of the unfree world, right? Is she beautiful in the summer, the winter, the spring, the fall? That's the way he acted. And by the way, when the 12 months were up, they were raped by the king, and then they weren't allowed to leave. You can't have some woman who was one night with the king now marrying some Joe Schmo. It lessens his power. So they spend the rest of their lives in his personal harem. Do you hate him yet, by the way? I mean, okay, we're disgusted by him, right? As now the word Yehudi literally means Hodah, to give thanks. So Yehudim, Jews, in Hebrew is Yehudim, means the people that give thanks. Means the people who are grateful. That's very fitting, because one of the main themes over here is that we are going to give thanks for this story and the events that happened over here for a long, long time. We're going to see there be many miracles through history for the Jewish people and many close escapes. This one is very different because the Jewish people changed from before this to after this. Okay, so let's meet him. Ish Yehudi, there was a Jew, Hayab Shishna Bira, and he's in the capital. Ushmo Mordechai, his name was Mordechai. Ben Yair, the son of Yair. Ben Shimi, the son of Shimi. Ben Kish, the son of Kish. Ish Yemeni, a Benjaminite. What are these different names? What are these different unusual names? So, it doesn't mean, by may not mean literal to say, it could be just he was a descendant, not a son. But the word Yair means he brought a light. Shimi, Shama, people listened to him and God listened to him. Kish means to knock. He used to knock on the heavens to pray for the Jewish people and God listened. Ishimini, the Benjaminite.
Wait, what is Shamir again?
Shema is the hear, Shema Yisrael, to hear. God listened to him. He was a very important man. He was, before this, the member of the Anshe Knesset Gadola, the Great Assembly. 2 more minutes and then we'll finish up. Okay. Now, in order to be on the Great Assembly, that means he was a decisive judge, a great Torah scholar, the leader, one of the leaders of his day. In order to be on that, you needed to have a certain ability. Do you happen to know what ability you had to have to be on the Great Assembly that existed and giving Mordechai a great boost in power? That's going to happen a little bit later. So put this whole language thing into your hippocampus. Now, I'm going to do one last part. We're going to finish with this. We've done a lot today. How long have I got? 2 minutes. Okay. It was 45 minutes. I've gone 41. I can still make it. So it goes like this. Mordechai came from the tribe. It's a little complicated, but it's very fascinating. Came from the tribe of Benjamin. Now, Mordechai had a great grandfather by the name of Shaul, Saul. Saul happened to be the first king among the Jewish people. He was a very humble man, a very great man, and he was chosen to be the first king of Israel. Something happened, however. What was that? There was a nation called Amalek. We're going to hear a lot about this nation. Amalek was a terrible nation that always came, as soon as we left Egypt, they came to attack us. They've been a thorn in our sides for centuries. Actually, millennia, actually, to be fair, to be honest. Shaul went to war against Amalek. Got it? He wiped them all out. Very aggressive, and he wiped them all out, except their king. Their king had a name. The king's name was Agag. Shaul spared him for one night and killed him the next day. But he made a mistake. He should have killed him the night before. In that one night, he was able to have relations and reproduce and have children. And so Amalek lived on. So he didn't listen to his command, it was given, and he let this king of Amalek, this bad nation, live one extra night. With me? Because of that, he lost his job. Kingship moved from the tribe of Benjamin to the tribe of Judah, which King David, King Solomon, and all the other kings were from. Now follow carefully. We're about to meet Haman. Haman is called the Agagite, the one from Agag. That means that Haman comes from Amalek. So Saul fought against the king of Amalek. Saul's great grandson, Mordechai, ends up taking on the battle that his great-great-grandfather Saul did not finish, and takes on a battle against Haman, who's the great-great-great-grandson of Agag. So this battle that started many years before, goes through the generation and gets revisited in this story. And that's why we're going to see Mordechai is the one who's going to stand out, and he's going to be the only one who ends up pushing back against Haman. All the other rabbis kind of let him be, and we're going to see bow down to him. But Mordechai does not, and there's a battle happening between these two, which started many years before. So really this story is not irrelevant for the time and the future, it's also got relevance to the past of this battle between the Jewish people, specifically the tribe of Benjamin, and this nation of Amalek. We did a lot today. We did a lot. We're going to do a lot more. Any questions on anything we discussed today? Yeah.
You said he lost his Benjamin, that thing that you said.
He lost kingship. Kings were meant to come through Benjamin. The kingship moved to another tribe, the tribe of Yehuda, Judah.
I just learned today that, is it true that Benjamin is the only one who didn't ever have an Avera? Like,
Benjamin was a very, very holy person,
or
absolutely.
like one of the only
Yes.
people?
Yes.
So does that have to do with why they
He
were...
was absolutely a very great man. And that's, King Saul came from his tribe. No messing around. A very great tribe. That tribe went through a lot lot of trouble afterwards. And this is just one example. Okay, thank you all very, very much. We're going to pick this up, God willing, next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
If you guys want to, we can keep your books for you if you want.